And here we are on a Saturday morning, and look at what we're doing. We're building up the playing golf for what a year. Isn't that great? Isn't that? It is great. All over the country, it's this kind of a response. And I want to thank Build the Wall. We'll build the wall. Don't worry. I promise. I promise we will build the wall. If there's ever a second term, you'll say, man, he got that wall built fast. We're going to. So we'll see. We'll build the wall. Don't worry. They love the wall. I love the wall, too. We need it. It's not like love. It's like we need it. I want to thank the fire marshal and his folks. They've been incredible. There are tremendous thousands of people outside trying to get in, and they're keeping exits open. They've got them covered and everything else. And I did say, what's to burn? We have a concrete floor, right? But the fire marshal was fantastic, so I want to thank him very much. Instead of people walking away, they got him in, and I appreciate it. For truth, you better believe it. So Waterbury. You know, the other candidates don't even come up to Connecticut and campaign. I love Connecticut. I've lived in Connecticut. I love Connecticut. I actually lived here for a long time. It's a great place. I'll come back maybe someday if I could ever slow down a little bit. But I know. And I also know the problems. Oh, how did you lose General Electric? You can't do that. Fellas, how did you do this? See, now there's one that's not moving to another country. The country I can take care of. But when they move to a different state, you got to handle your stuff. We can't, right? That's moving to a different. We gotta do something about that. Maybe we can turn their decision around. I don't know, you know? Well, I don't want to get into a fight with Massachusetts. You know, I won that with almost 50% of the vote. So Massachusetts is great. So you know what? When they start moving from state to state, that's different. But when they move from here to Mexico, that I can solve. When China takes your jobs, that I can solve. When Japan takes advantage of us, that I can solve. Believe me. And fast. And that's where most of the problems are. So, you know, I've been doing this. Thank you. Yeah. All right, get him out. Get him out. That was quick. That was quick. That was quick. He was gone. Get him out, and he just left. You know, they had on television, I was leaving, and they showed a couple of protesters, and they went, Waters, a good guy, Jesse. They interviewed a couple of people. So why are you here? I don't know. And I saw it last week on television. I saw they had some protesters, and they went up and interviewed them. You know, they were hoping for some really bad stuff. What do you think of Donald Trump? Actually, I like him very much. Well, you're holding a sign. What? Yeah, they gave it to me. Well, why are you protesting? Honestly, I don't know. These are the protesters. Believe me, folks, it's a whole big con job that's being played, okay? It's a whole big con job. So look, Waterbury, we love Waterbury, but we got to talk about it. We got a little talking to do. We got to talk about it. So, you know, I did this for the last couple of weeks because I've been going around to the local places that I love, Connecticut, New York. Did we win big in New York or what? You know, I see these people like Karl Rove on television. And he says, well, Donald Trump did not get 50%. I got 17 people. You know, I originally had 17 people, right? 17. And they'd say, I'd win with like. Now, that's 32%. I have 16 other people. And they'd say, Donald Trump did not break 50%. And, you know, the amazing thing is, and they never talk about it. And even in this, you know, the 1237, I mean, it's really not fair because if you think about it, the first 7, 8, 9, 10 states, I had many, many people. And even now we have 3. Now, they're both mathematically eliminated. They should drop out. In all fairness, they should drop out. You know, lying Ted Cruz is mathematically, this guy is a liar. Disgraceful. Lion Ted, who, by the way, came in a deep, deep third last week. How can somebody run for president when you're so bad in New York? What did he get, like a little bit above 10%? Now, how do you run for president if you can't get, and in Connecticut, he's going to do terribly. And Kasek's not going to do very well. Yeah, we have nice polls. What? Get him out. So you say to yourself, that's very good. I like that. I'm going to use that more. But, you know, when you think of it, we have to unite the Republican Party because we're going to win. You know, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. I was watching the other day. This is a true number. 55,000 negative ads against me. 55,000. Now, I was in Florida. Won Florida in a landslide. You saw that, 20%. 20%. Won it in a landslide, and a great state. And I thought I'd do well. And they tried to fix, you know, it's all rigged, folks, just so you know. Now, they rigged Florida. Florida was rigged because you have a popular senator, Marco Rubio, a good guy, and you have a governor, a past governor, but he's a good guy. I like people, you know, after the race, I like everybody. During the race, I don't like them so much. That's the way it's supposed to be, right? No, Marco is a good guy, and he's got a great future, I think. But you have Jeb Bush. So they have the sitting senator, they had the former governor, and so they said, oh, well, this one of those two. So what we'll do in Florida, 99, second biggest to California, where we're looking very good. We're almost up to 50% in California. So, and Indiana, and by the way, would I like to get Coach Bobby Knight, who is a great coach, endorsement, okay? Let's see if I get it. But would I like to get the endorsement of Bobby Knight, one of the great coaches, tough, strong, smart? To get that for Indiana, I'll tell you what, that would be, to me, a great endorsement. When they talk about endorsements, that would be great. But when you think about it, so we have Florida. And I'm telling you, the system, it's a bad system, folks, bad system. Because in theory, you could buy the nomination. All you have to do is take all these delegates out to dinner. You could send them to Paris. You can give them anything, but you're not allowed to give them cash. So you give them a flight to Paris, France. Although I want to stay in this country, to be honest with you. I want to stay right here. We're going to stay right here. Let's change it. We can give them a flight to Doral in Miami, or we can give them a flight to Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, okay? But no, think of it, how ridiculous. So you can do anything you want, and you wine them and dine them, and then they say, okay, they're going to vote for you. You do this like 50 times. All of a sudden, you know, you take $100 million, and you do it. There's no limit. What kind of an election process is this? And I learned in Louisiana, you remember, they said, you know, I wasn't supposed to win the South. I won the South. Okay? I love the South. In fact, if it doesn't come through for me, I'm moving to the South. The hell with Connecticut. I'm not coming back here. No, but I won Alabama. I won Arkansas. I won we won. Kentucky was unbelievable. We won just everything. And we won Florida big league. So what they did in Florida is they said, all right, look, this Trump guy is trouble because, you know, when he came in, I did well right from the beginning. My wife said, you know, not that she wanted me to run. Believe me, she would have preferred the life the way it used to be. It was a lot simpler, all right? But she said, you know, if you run, you know you're going to win, don't you? And right, it's looking pretty good, I have to tell you. So what happens, and she would just see the reaction. You know, would go out to a movie and people would say, hey, Mr. Trump, okay. Because, you know, people want something special now. We need something special. We don't need these all talk, you know, no action. They're all talk. They're all taken care of by their PACs and by their campaign contributors. If it's bad for the country, they don't care. They want to do what's good for their donors and all of these special interests. So in Florida, they said thing because this Trump guy is like looking, we don't like this. So what they did is they said, winner take all. Winner take all. So I wouldn't get my percentage. You know, they probably figured I was going to get 10%. And they said, winner take all. They changed all the bylaws, all the rules, everything changed, boom. And then they did a poll. Trump, 49%, the other two in the teens, right? And they said, we got a problem. We got to change it back. This is no good. Let's go proportional. And they looked at it seriously, but they couldn't do it. And then we had Florida. We won in a landslide. It was a phenomenal win. And we got all 99 delegates. And, you know, they have a lot of tricky things. But Louisiana, that's where I got wise to it, because Cruz was supposed to win Louisiana. And they said he was going to get the evangelicals. There's only one problem. The evangelicals like me a lot better than they like him. That's why I won South Carolina. Remember, they said, well, South Carolina is Cruz. That's his watershed. Except I won in a landslide, and I got the evangelical vote. You know, the truth is, the evangelicals are amazing people. They don't like liars. They don't like lying Ted. They don't like him. They don't like lying Ted. You know, I always sort of have fun with it. Walks in, Bible held high, puts it down, and then he lies. He actually said yesterday, I don't know if you saw this, but he actually said, my campaign person, who's fantastic. I have a fantastic team. The original team now was supplemented. We have great people, Paul Manafort. And Paul said some really, really great success with Reagan and with Bush and with Ford, and, you know, great success. He didn't have to do this. Like, I don't have to. He didn't need to do this, but he wanted to because he saw something, and he called me. He said, this is something special. One of the biggest people in the country called me. They said, Paul saw something special. So he's working with Corey and Hope and everybody, and it's like an amazing group of people. And Paul was down in Florida, and he said, you know, Donald might be changing a little bit over a period of time, and maybe he'll tone it down, maybe he won't, but who knows what happens. I sort of don't like toning it down. You know, we keep I'm going to talk about that in a second because it's interesting. Isn't it nice that I'm not one of these teleprompter guys where you come in? Well, first of all, if I was, I'd have an audience of about 3 people here in the front instead of, this is the biggest crowd in the history of the school. Okay, by far, by thousands, by thousands. But so what happens is Paul comes in and he made the statement and he said, you know, he's going to this and that, and he's going to talk a lot of policy, because I do love policy. And I've been right on policy, folks. You know, they don't give you, I've been right. Even the New York Times, they wrote a piece which was actually, for a change, a good piece. And it talked about my views on us defending other nations. We got to get paid for it. We got, you know, we can't defend everybody free of charge. We defend Japan and Germany and South Korea and Saudi Arabia. You know, like Saudi Arabia doesn't have enough money to pay for it. And frankly, they wouldn't be there very long if we weren't standing there with our ships, our planes, our people. And, you know, we got to fair. I want to be fair. We'll have a great relationship. So Paul was talking about different things. And he said, yeah, Donald can be different if he's in a room. Of course, who isn't? Actually, one of the folks today on Fox and another one on CNN, they said, well, who isn't different? When I'm in a room talking, you're one way. When I'm out here talking to you people, I got to be different, right? I mean, I can say basically the same thing. So Paul said, no, he's different when he's in a room, and then he goes out and speaks, it's different. And then if he gives policy, that's different. You know, we all have, like with smart people, you act differently, right? So Cruz picks it up, lying Ted. He goes, Donald Trump is kidding everybody. He's different on the trail. He said, and he said that he's going to do things differently. And he's not going to build the wall. What the hell does this have to do with the wall? Believe me, I'm building the wall. But lying Ted, believe me. It's unbelievable. So Lion Ted took a really nice meeting with the RNC, Republican National Committee. Took a really, Raphael. Yeah. Raphael, straight out of the hills of Canada. 4 years in Canada. Was a Canadian citizen until 14, 15 months ago. And then he ran for the Senate. You know, you're registered as a Canadian citizen. He said, oh, I never knew that. He never knew he was a Canadian. I can't believe, you know, one of the first things the Democrats, you do know this. If he wins, he's not going to win. He's so far behind. Despite the fact that they're buying off delegates with, well, you know, nice dinners and the finest steak you can have and all that stuff. Despite the fact I'm 300 delegates above him and millions of votes above. So he's not going to win. But if he ever did, the first thing that the Democrats are going to do is sue him on the basis that he's not a naturalized citizen, that he wasn't born in this country. Now, I happen to think they're going to win, but who knows? I mean, who knows what happens? We'll see. It's going to happen that he's going to be sued. Now, he didn't know he was a Canadian citizen. He's a joint U.S.-Canadian citizen. So he gave up his citizenship in Canada. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? Isn't it nice to know? But anyway, so he took the statement of a campaign guy who just wanted to say, we're going to all be friends. We're going to get along. Donald's not always like this. This isn't always Donald. Donald's very smart, and he's very calm, which is true, actually. I actually have low blood pressure. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? I had 110 over something. Can you imagine? I had it the doctor said, man, you have the blood pressure of a great, great athlete who's 20 years old. 110, I like that, because I like being a great athlete. But I actually do. I said, Doc, what would have happened if I had high blood pressure? He said, you would have exploded about 30 years ago. It's true. It's true. So, in one way, you have to be a little bit lucky for that stuff. But look, I love you too. Even though it's a guy, but I love you. I do love him. I love our people. We have the most loyal group of people, they say, in many, many years. Like, I think from the beginning of polling, when they used to do polls. I've made polling important because I used to come in, and I still do, because I can talk about Connecticut, we're way up. In every state, actually, all 5 states that we're running for this Tuesday, folks, you got to get out and vote, please, please, please. But all 5 states, we're way up. I think my smallest lead is like 20 points or something. And Maryland is great. We just left Maryland. We had an unbelievable crowd. Pennsylvania is phenomenal. I went to school in Pennsylvania. I mean, these are all great places. Rhode Island. These are Delaware. I just left Delaware yesterday. It is a Delaware corporation. I went to my people yesterday, just 10 minutes before I left, because I spoke in Delaware. We had a we always have record-setting crowds. Now, when these other guys come in, they have like 200 people. And the people fall asleep and they leave early. But what happens, so I'm in Delaware. I said to my guy, do me a favor. Find out how many corporations or how many registrations do I have in Delaware? Yes, sir. So he comes back like, he didn't have much time, in all fairness. I said, I'm leaving in 9 minutes. Can you do this? He comes back. He said, sir, it's 378. I said, 378? That's pretty good, right? That's big stuff, right? Hey, look, I built a great company. I took $1 million loan that I paid back. I took $1 million. Sometimes I like to negotiate with banks. Whenever they want to negotiate, I'm okay with it. You understand it. But I took $1 million loan, and I turned it into $10 billion in a fairly short period of time. Fairly short period of time. With some of the greatest assets anywhere in the world, with a tremendous cash flow, with very little debt, and it's all filed. I mean, I have it filed, and largely, it's hard to determine by these papers, but it's the largest filing in the history of federal elections. And that's what we need in our country for a period of time, at least. We need that because our country's going to hell. You're losing your jobs and everything else. I just want to finish with Louisiana, though, because then we're going to get into bringing jobs back to your community, okay? Right? So just to show you what a rigged system. So I'm supposed to lose Louisiana, but I said, I don't know why. I mean, they're great people. Let's, why? And then I heard a poll came where I was like 10 points behind with a week to go. I said, let's go for it, right? We got to go for it. I like Louisiana. Louisiana's cool. So I got on the plane. I did some speeches, and then I made a really good. We had an airplane hangar, and I landed my plane on. It was actually Friday night, and that election took place, I think, on a Saturday, but it was the night before, and we had tens of thousands. I mean, you never saw anything. A room that's like 10 times bigger than this. It was packed with people from Louisiana. And I made a speech, an hour speech, and we had a great time. Considering the subject matter is lousy because we're talking about how bad our country is, but it's actually good because we're talking about bringing it back, make America great again. That's a very positive. So I made this speech, and I said, wow, that was an amazing event. And I left, and that was it. The next day they had the election, and I won. I said, wow, that's great. I won Louisiana, right? With the people. I won. And then a week or two goes by, and I'm looking at the numbers, and somebody sent me, Mr. Trump, you're really doing well all over the place. I said, yeah, but they made a mistake in Louisiana. Because Cruz, I killed him. I said, Cruz has more delegates than I do, and I won. Well, sir, they had a ground team. You know what a ground team means. Let's go for lunch. Let's go for dinner. What hotel would you like to stay at? when you're in Cleveland? What hotel? Let's make arrangement. I said, what do you mean he's got a ground team? What are you talking about? No, I won the state. I get the delegates, right? They said, no, sir, you don't get the delegates. So I won the state, and I saw he got more delegates than me. I said, this is not good. Then you look at what went on in Wyoming, and you look at Colorado, and I said, this is a rigged system. In Colorado, they're going crazy because they took the vote away. They didn't even get a chance to vote. And the bosses picked the people. And I said, this is a rigged system. So we're working really hard, and now we have Pennsylvania, which I love, and it's my neighbor. It's my neighbor. And I told you, I went to school there. I know it so well. I know the people. They're great. And I watched on television today, and there were two young guys on CNN, on Smirkanish, actually. And they were, who doesn't necessarily treat me good, but I'll give them a little free publicity because these two guys, they were delegates, right? So this is different because now we're playing the game, right? And these two guys were like, who are you going to vote for? Who are you a delegate for? Trump. How about you? Trump. And let me ask you, is there anything he can do, on the fourth ballot or the fifth? And by the way, I don't think we're going to get there. I think we win on the first. We don't want to go. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. I mean, when you think of it, I'm millions of votes more than Lion Ted Cruz. Millions. I'm millions of votes more than Kasich. And I don't know how you pronounce his name, Kasich. It's I-C-H. Every time I see it, I say Kasich. But it's pronounced Kasich. So I'm doing a very good job staying on. But, it's really, can we ask him to change the spelling of his name? Are we allowed to do that? So ridiculous. Okay. I'm millions of votes more than Kasich. Millions. I'm 300 delegates more, despite all his shenanigans with taking people to dinners and all. And his super PACs going in and being involved, which they shouldn't be involved. They shouldn't be involved, by the way. They're not supposed to be involved. But he's got these super PACs, whining and dining all the delegates. See, Cruz can't win with the voter. He can't. You saw what happened in New York. He got wiped out. You saw what happened all over the place. I've won so many states more than him. He's got very few. He's got, I think, less than half. But he can't win with the voter. And don't forget, the half he got, it's a delegate thing. He can't win with the voter. There's no way he can win with the voter. Hillary Clinton, who I call Crooked Hillary, Hillary Clinton will kill him. And don't forget, he's never had a negative ad. And Kasich has never had a negative ad. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about it. I've had 55,000, I told you before. 55,000 negative ads. Almost $100 million has spent on negative ads. And I'm beating everybody. It's crazy. And the negative ads, I have to tell you, are totally false. Well, not totally. Every once in a while, there's a couple of points with it, couple of points every once in a while. But the negative ads are phony ads, okay? They're totally misrepresentative ads. But I've had 55, this was on the cable shows, I've had 55,000 negative ads, and I'm still beating everybody. And I get a kick when I see Kasich get up and say, well, in the general election, he hasn't had one negative ad. After the first ad, he goes down like this. Cruz, after the first ad, he goes down. He's not even winning with no negative ads, okay? And I think I'm immune to negative ads. Somebody said nobody even cares about him anymore. How many times? It's funny. You have hundreds of successful jobs. And then you have some that weren't successful that I actually made successful. We have some great business people here. I know some of them will call me that I'm going to be there. They're very successful. But the side of a great person in terms of business is a lot of times markets collapse and things happen and you're in the midst of a big project and, look, you always blame yourself. But still, there are things that are beyond your control, right? It's called beyond your control. The sign of a great business person is when you can take a job that was supposed to be good or you wouldn't have started it, then the world collapses, you go into a recession or something, or depression like we had in the early 90s and like we had 8 years ago. And you can make, Waterbury's still in it, I have to say. We'll get you out of it fast, don't worry about it. Don't worry, we're going to be positive. But look, when you can take a deal that's a really bad deal, that's right. You go and beat up the banks, you beat up everybody, you fight like hell, and you make it a good deal. You discount the hell out of the loan. You do a lot of things. But that's what we need in the country, folks. That's what we need. And I have taken deals. I'll tell you, Some of my best deals are deals that should be bad. They're deals that should have been bad, and I've turned them into winners. I took a dead, crummy, horrible deal through hard work and really tough negotiation. But I'd always, if it was a building, I'd bring it in under budget and ahead of schedule. That's important. You don't want to be where you hundreds of millions of dollars more. When I see the government with their roadways and their bridges and everything where they cost 3, 4, 5 times what they were originally going to cost, once that happens, you're out. But my business is always good. But I have taken so many deals where they should be bad, and I made them good. And some of them I made better than if the deal would have been good straight from the start, like if there were no problems with the recessions and stuff. And that's what you need. You know, it's also called flexibility. It's called, like, you got to go with the punches. The boxers say you got to go with the punches. But I've taken deals and made them phenomenal when they shouldn't have been. When they shouldn't have been. I have a list of them, and I'm going to actually release the list. But do you ever notice they never talk about the great deals? Somebody said, why don't they ever talk about that building over there? What are they pick out 2 or 3 deals, which actually, in a couple of cases, turn out to be phenomenal deals, but nobody wants to hear it. So we just have to understand, the most dishonest people that you will ever deal with, even more dishonest than lying Ted Cruz and crooked Hillary. No, I don't know. I don't know. If I had a contest between crooked Hillary Clinton and the media, I'm not sure, folks. I think the media may be worse. I don't know. I hate to say it. I hate to say it. They may be worse. I mean, let me tell you, they are bad. They are bad. They're very dishonest people. They know they're dishonest, too. You know, I used to say, I'd get like, you know, every once in a while you'll have somebody, I'd say, she or he is a very stupid person. They don't get it. And then you get another one, same person. I'd say, wait a minute, they do get it. They're bad people. They're bad people. No, the media, now you have some good ones. You have some very good ones. But you have a lot of dishonest people in the media, folks. A lot of really dishonest. In the Hillary Clinton class, I will tell you that. Crooked Hillary in that class. All right. So let me just tell you. I feel so good being here. One thing, I told you about presidential. So every once in a while, my wife would say presidential, but she didn't like saying it. And my daughter Ivanka would say, and Ivanka's going to be a big help too. Ivanka's great. Do you love Ivanka? I love Ivanka. They're great. But yesterday, it was very interesting, because yesterday I was hearing about how I'm going to become presidential, and I could do it. So, hey, you know what? I'm like a really smart person, like a lot of you people, and presidential's easy. You know what presidential is? I walk on. Here's what. Now, a couple of things. Number one, I'd have 2 big teleprompters here, which I don't. And number 2, I wouldn't have to do this because there'd be very little applause. People would be bored, right? So you walk on. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor to be with you this morning. Although most presidents don't work in the morning. You know that, right? No, it's very easy to be presidential, you know. But I'll tell you, today on one of the networks, it was very interesting. A guy got up and said, but I don't think they want him. I think they like him the way he is. He wants, you know, I started off. It's very interesting. So, believe me, so easy. But you know, it's funny. The guy said he started off with 17 people total. You had senators. You had governors, all very successful senators. I mean, they're not going to run if they're a bad senator. They're not going to run if they're a bad governor. It wouldn't last long. So he started off with tough governors, tough senators. People like Dr. Ben Carson, who's a great guy, who endorsed me, but very smart. Very smart. Carly, you know, all people of achievement. I mean, these are all people of great achievement. Okay, so he starts off 17 people. One by one, week after week, boom, boom, boom. This one's going home. That one's going home. They didn't know what the hell hit them, right? They don't know. Jeb Bush, he had $168 million in the chest. And, in fact, Romney didn't run because he felt he couldn't beat Jeb Bush, right? That's why Romney didn't run. Romney saw Jeb Bush And Jeb Bush said, I've raised over $100 million, and if you run, I'm going to come very strong at you. And Romney chickened out just like he did when he ran 4 years ago, okay? He choked. He gagged. He gagged. Because that's an election that should have been won. Romney should have won that election. And Romney was out poker played by Jeb Bush. So Jeb Bush, but he's a man of achievement. I mean, he was the governor of Florida for 8 years. Good guy. I like Jeb Bush. Now I like him. I didn't like him when I ran. I'm telling you, it's true. I like all these guys now, every one of them. I consider them dear, dear friends. Remember when Romney and Rubio were going at each other, but they were saying they're dear, dear? They'd always start, Marco is a dear, dear friend of mine. And I'd say, he doesn't like Marco, but it's political talk. So on television, they were talking, and this is important. They said, you know, we like Trump the way he is. He took 17 of these very smart people, and one by one, they're gone. And now we're down to 2. I call it 1.5. I now actually call it 1 because I call it a half and a half because they're both out. It's 1. And if I acted presidential, I guarantee you that this morning I wouldn't be here. And somebody else would be here, not in a big room like this. Somebody else would be here and you'd be in a conference room and they'd be talking to you. Okay? But if I was presidential, so about a week ago I started saying, you know, I love playing that where I say, my wife tells me to be more presidential. My daughter tells me to be more presidential. And Paul Manafort and Corey, and a lot of them say, be more presidential. And now people are starting to say, wait a minute, you know, look what got you here, right? Look what it's like a great hitter in baseball. They're in the minor leagues. He's tearing up the minor leagues, tear it up. He's got his swing, tear it up. Or a PGA Tour player gets out. He wins the U.S. Amateur. He's phenomenal. He's going to be the next Jack Nicklaus. He's going to be the next Tiger Woods. Gets on tour. And then some guy, you know, I don't like your swing. Change your swing. You're going to be great. And he said, really? Change your swing. You're going to be great. Okay, and you never hear from him again. That's the last time, right? How many of those guys have we seen? How many of those guys? So they were telling me, and I was watching. I found it very interesting. I've always studied this. I found it interesting. Dewey was running, and he was going to easily win. He was way up in the polls, and he was running against Truman. And Truman was called Give Him Hell Harry, right? And a lot of people thought Harry was tough and nasty, but he was really going to be, it was going to be a big, big defeat. And Dewey was very, you know, presidential. He was automatic. I mean, you look at him, he had the whole deal. I think I have a presidential look, though, don't I? Don't I have a great president. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much. So, no, I think I have a presidential look. So, what happens, I mean, I look at the other guys, do they have a presidential look? I mean, on stage, hey, look, I was in 11 debates, according to Drudge, great guy, according to Drudge, according to Time Magazine, you know, they do these online polls. I won every single debate by every single online poll. And I was on center stage for every single debate. And I never debated that kind of debate. My whole life has been a debate, but I never stood on stages and debated like these, you know, bloodsuckers, so many bloodsuckers in the world of politics. No, that's all they do. They debate. You know what their whole life is? It's a debate. They get on stage, they debate. I never did that before. And yet, every single debate, I was on center stage. And the only thing I asked of the debates were, I want an odd number of people. You know why? When it was an even number, I was on center stage with somebody else. I said, in other words, if we had 5, I was in the center. If we had 6, I was sharing it. I didn't like that, okay? So I'd fight. And I usually won that fight, but not always. But I was center stage. I was number 1 on every single debate. And practically since I've come out, I've been number 1. And now I was thinking about it the other day. They're saying, well, he's going to change. And even when Paul said yesterday, yeah, he can be as presidential as anybody you've ever seen. And then other people pick it up and say, oh, see, he's been misrepresented. This is sick people. No, these are desperate people. These are desperate people. And then he said, and you have to read the transcript because what he said was fine. But they said, he said, therefore, This is Cruz, Lion Ted. He said that he will not build the wall. He didn't say that. All he said is he's going to be presidential, he's going to change and be presidential, and you're going to love it. But I'll tell you what. But Lion Ted actually used that as an excuse. But listen to this. I'm starting to think, I want to be very solid, very good. We've got to beat China. We've got to beat ISIS. We've got to beat... Look. China is killing us in trade. ISIS, can you imagine if General George Patton, a bulldog, you talk about a guy that was tough, right? He'd walk in, and his people loved him. They loved him. He'd get up there with the whip. Today he couldn't, they would throw him out. He'd attained the rank of corporal, and they'd say, he's too tough. I want him out of here, right? George Patton. Can you imagine telling George Patton that General George Patton or General Douglas MacArthur, a different type? Do you know, in the history of West Point, I've heard, in the history of West Point, General Douglas MacArthur had the highest grades. That means a lot to me. Grades, mean something to me. In other words, smart, very smart. But they were different types. But they were the same in one thing, is they knew how to win. We don't know how to win, because we don't win anymore, okay? We don't win anymore. But can you imagine somebody saying, let's tell George Patton, you got to tone it down. You can't be... Can you imagine him looking at the fact that the United States of America can't beat ISIS in like less than a week, okay? Okay? So we're going to beat ISIS very, very quickly, folks. Very, very quickly. It's going to be fast. Going to be fast. We're going to be fast. Somebody said to me yesterday, exactly what are you going to do to beat ISIS, and tell me exactly what is your plan? I said, I have a real chance of winning. I don't like telling you my plan. You remember I was saying, take the oil, take the oil. And remember, it took me 4 months before I finally get it. I have a great plan. It's going to be great. Well, what is it? I'd rather not say I want to be unpredictable. They'd say, oh, this is terrible. You have to say. So I went through 4 months of saying I don't want to say. And I was getting killed. They were saying, he doesn't have a plan. I said, no, I have a plan. I promise I have a plan. I don't want to tell it. We want to be unpredictable. I don't want to be like Barack Obama, where he announced a few months ago. We are sending 50 soldiers, our finest, to Iraq and Syria. Why would you announce that? Why do you announce that? Why do you tell the enemy that you're sending people over there, and they now have a target on their back? Why do you do that? So I was saying, keep the oil. I wasn't saying bomb them. I was saying keep the oil, because we were still in Iraq. I was saying, by the way, they say Trump, he's a tough guy. He'll be too fast. Let me tell you something, folks. I'm the one that didn't want to go into Iraq. I've been saying it for years and years. And before, they're trying to find statements where I said something else. I was talking to and let me tell you, from the beginning, Iraq was a mistake because it was going to destabilize the Middle East. And boy, was I right, okay? I'm probably the slowest, but I'll tell you, nobody's going to mess with me, because we're going to build our military so big, so strong, so powerful. Nobody's going to mess with us, folks. Nobody. Nobody's going to mess. So look at you people. You're really liking this stuff, huh? So look, just to end, we have to be unpredictable. And with the oil, I'll never forget it. This was like when toward the beginning. They said, I don't have a plan. And the reason I don't have a plan, because I wouldn't tell them. I said, I don't want to tell you. That doesn't work with these bloodsuckers back there, the reporters. All right? It doesn't work. So they'd go out, Donald Trump does not have a plan. Donald Trump does not. When I said that Japan, I love Japan. Many friends from Japan. I mean, they're ripping us off, but they know that. Everybody knows it. They send millions of cars. We send them practically nothing. You talk about a trade imbalance. Take a look. They're up here. We're down below the floor. See the stage? We're below the stage. But I love Japan. So I say to the Washington Post, I say, no, we need to get reimbursed. And I made it somewhat economic. We protect Japan, we protect Germany, we protect South Korea, we protect Saudi, we protect all these nations. And we lose a fortune. You know, when you hear that we have the biggest military budget, by far bigger than any other country, that's true. But you know what we're doing? We're protecting other countries, okay? That's not me. That's not our... Now, I love doing it. But you have to be prepared to walk. They have to pay. NATO. What do you think of NATO, Mr. Trump? Wolf Blitzer. Good guy. Wolf Blitzer. Great guy. He says, what do you think of NATO? Now, you know, I'm an entrepreneur. I haven't been talking about NATO too much for my life, but I have a lot of common sense. I said two things. It's obsolete. Okay? It's obsolete. And I was right. Guys that study it permanently, they said, it took them about a week. You know, you're so into something you don't realize? They didn't even realize. They said, Trump's right. It doesn't really cover terror. And you have the wrong nations. 28 nations, but you have the wrong nations. So, and the other thing is, it costs too much. We're giving everybody a free ride. And it turns out to be true. Other than 5 countries, we're giving them like a free ride. So when they write it, they don't say those things. They leave out the economics. They say, Trump wants Japan to arm. I don't want Japan to arm. It may be that that's a result, but they have to pay us a fair amount, okay? We cannot continue to lose our shirt so that we can protect Japan from the maniac in North Korea with his nuclear weapons, okay? But they don't put the full statement in. So they have you look like you don't know what the hell you're doing. Trump wants Japan to arm, headline and something. Trump wants to see Japan arm. I don't want to see him arm. But they got to pay us so that we don't lose. I don't even want to we got to do something. Saudi Arabia would not be there. I have friends in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia would not be there for a week if we weren't protecting them. And yet they chisel with us. They're fighting us all the time over money. They have more money than anybody. They made, when the oil was high, and don't feel bad for them now, they're making a fortune. But when the oil was high, they were making $1 billion a day. And we're protecting Saudi Arabia. So we need somebody that understands this, folks. Saudi Arabia will pay us a fortune. If we're not protecting Saudi Arabia, I'm telling you, they won't be there for 1 week. Look at what's happening with Iran. The worst deal I've ever seen, the Iran deal. By the way, but I won't. Look at what's happening with Iran. They want Yemen. Well, they don't want Yemen for Yemen. They want Yemen because it's a long border on Saudi Arabia. They want the oil. If we're not there, that oil, believe me, will be gone very quickly. So Saudi Arabia is going to pay. Now, here's what's going to happen. We're going to break up the negotiations. It's not going to work. The following morning, we get a phone call. Okay. That's what's going to happen. And we're going to build up our money. We're going to build up our nation. We're going to make great trade deals. We're going to have a strong border. Yeah, we're going to have the wall. And who's going to pay for the wall? 100%, by the way. 100%. Now, look, I was supposed to do this at the beginning of the speech. I got to go quick. Ready? Waterbury. I love Waterbury. Waterbury has suffered tragically as a result of lost manufacturing jobs, right? Waterbury has lost nearly 60% of its manufacturing jobs since 1990. 60%? That's bad. What's the same? Folks, I go to upstate New York, same. I go to different places. I mean, you look at what happened with Syracuse and Albany and Poughkeepsie and all these places I went to. They're phenomenal places. And you look at what happened. I go out to the island, out to Long Island, where I love and everything. I'm there all the time. You look at what's happened over there with jobs. Waterbury lost nearly 50% of its manufacturing jobs since Congress voted to put China into the World Trade Organization in 2001. Ted Cruz, Lion Ted, fought hard for this because currency manipulation, devaluation is the single best tool that these countries have to kill us, okay? That's on trade. Ted Cruz supports Chinese currency manipulation because he doesn't fight it. And Kasich went out and voted for NAFTA. NAFTA was the worst thing that ever happened in trade to this country, okay? I mean, a lot of your jobs are gone. Now, that was, in all fairness, that was Kasich. And essentially, they're both, right after this election, they're both going to approve Trans-Pacific Partnership, and that's worse than NAFTA. Okay. Waterbury's labor force is 3,000 people smaller than it was just a few years ago. 5 years ago, fellas. What's going on here? This is worse than I thought. What's going on? Well, it's not really the wall so much. The wall Yes, for a lot of things like illegal immigration and drugs. But this is really China and other countries are doing it. And it is Mexico because a lot of your businesses are moving, like Carrier left Indianapolis, a great place. They left Indianapolis. They went to Mexico. And they wouldn't do that with me because I'm going to tax their products coming back in. Now they're going to say, we're not going to move, okay? It's very simple. So here's your Hartford Current rights. I assume, are they a good paper? I don't know. They probably won't endorse me. I'm not their type, but that's okay. Today, the factories are largely gone, and the once bustling downtown, still proud, which you are, otherwise you wouldn't be here, right? Has had a seismic shift. I mean, a seismic shift. Representative Tony D'Amelio. Where is Tony? Tony. I love Tony. You know why? He's the first one to back me in this area. Right, Tony? Come here, Tony. Get Tony up here. Get up here, Tony. Get your ass up here, Tony. Come on, Tony. He's the first one. It's true. Tony said some great things, and he says great future and all that. Good man. Get up here. Come on, Tony. Get up here. Tony D'Amelio, folks. Get up here. Look at this guy. Tony D'Amelio. Come here. Number one guy. You know, I never knew that Tony was so tall. Say something, Tony.
It's Italian. Is he great or what? He will make America great again if we stand behind him on election day here in Connecticut. Get out and vote. Your neighbors, your parents, everyone. We need to do this, and we will.
You're a good man. He went out. He was the first one, and I appreciate that. I never forget. You know, some of these guys, they're endorsing me, and it's great. I love it. But, you know, they endorse Bush. Then they endorse somebody else, and then somebody else. And then they call, we'd like to endorse you. I say, let's see, what's his record? Oh, gee, boom, boom, boom. Now, Tony's been great, and I'll tell you what, we have some incredible people that have endorsed us. They've been there from the beginning, and they get it. And I love those people, and I'll never forget those people. Believe me. So the bottom line, and just to finish this off, Connecticut's doing very poorly, and we don't have to talk about it anymore because it's all depressing, okay? Right? We don't want to talk about it. Because what Tony said is right. We're going to bring our jobs back. We're not going to let people that are leaving, you know, they want to leave, the companies want to leave, and we're going to tell them there have to be consequences, okay? There are consequences when you leave. You can't leave Indiana like Carrier did and expect to be selling air conditioners through the border, which will now be a very strong border, through the border, and no tax. And I will tell the people at Carrier, and I will tell the people at Ford who are building a $2.5 billion plant, and now they've just announced they're going to make it even more. I will tell them, you know, good luck with your plants, and good luck, enjoy the very hot weather. I hope you enjoy it. Speaking of heat, it's about 200 degrees in here. Who cares, right? Who the hell cares? Who the hell cares? I'm sitting here. My suit is soaking wet. Don't touch me. But this room wasn't designed for this many people. That's all it is. Very simple. But you know what? When you look at what's going on, there have to be consequences for companies that leave our country, go to another country, and then think they're going to sell product back to the United States and not be taxed. There are consequences. And you know, if I had 5 minutes in a room with the president of Carrier Air Conditioning, and just even as a representative of the president, and again, I want to make the call. You've heard me say this. I want to make that call so badly. I want to make that call so badly. But, you know, but if I had 5 minutes in a room with the head of Carrier, and if I said, listen, here's the story. You're right now in Indiana, and you're going to move to Mexico, and you just let go 1,400 great people. I saw them on television. You saw the way they were let go. It was vicious. You just let go of all these people that have been there for 30 years, 25 years. They were at a speech. Many of them were at a speech I just made in Indiana. I said, here's the story. If you move, I wish you luck. But you're not going to sell your product in here. We're not going to be the dumb people. You know, I love free trade. I think it's great. But we don't have smart people representing us. We have dumb people representing us. Or they're people paid off by the special interests They get campaign contributions because, honestly, nobody can be that dumb. Do we agree? Nobody. So I'd say if you leave Indiana and you're going to make your air conditioning units, every unit that goes across that border, you're going to have a very substantial tax to pay, like 35%, okay? And I guarantee you, at the end of that 5 minute, I don't need more than 5. I don't even need 5. I guarantee you, at the end of that 5-minute meeting, they will say, sir, we're staying in Indiana, or we're going to stay in the United States, okay? We're going to stay in the United States. There have to be consequences. A company that leaves our country, goes to another country, builds a plant, employs other people, our people are laid off, and they have no tax because we have people that don't know what the hell they're doing, okay? There's consequences. And I'm a conservative person, and I get hit by all of these so-called think tanks. You know, think tanks, they don't have the brains they were born with. And they say, he is not a conservative. I remember Jeb. He is not a conservative. He is not a free trader. I'm a free trader. But to have free trade, you have to have smart people on our side. When you look at China, we have a trade deficit with China, folks, of think of it, of $505 billion. So then they say, we'll end up in a trade war with China. Who the hell cares? I mean, if you're losing 500, if you think about it, maybe it's the best thing that could happen. We'll do less business. Because the less business we do, the more money we're going to make. You know, I don't want to have a trade war when we're making money, but we don't make money with anybody. You can look at anything. Mexico. We have a trade deficit with Mexico, not including the drugs that they send over here. We have a trade deficit with Mexico of $58 billion a year. So these lightweights that I'm negotiating against on the dais with me, they come up, and after the debate, one of them says, Donald, you'll never build a wall. You can't build a wall. Of course you can't. Do you know how easy that is? Do you know how easy it is? You know, 15 years ago, they wanted to have a wall, and they couldn't get environmental impact statements because there was a certain kind of snake or rodent or toad or something. Believe me, I'm so good at this. That wall will get built. So good. But we're going to build. We're going to build it. And I always tell them, 2,000 years ago, China built a wall that was 13,000 miles long. And I mean, it's called the Great Wall of China. They did that. They didn't have Caterpillar tractors and cranes, folks. They did it the old-fashioned way, right? They built a wall that was 13,000 miles long, the Great Wall of China, 2,000 years ago. We need 1,000 miles. It's 2,000 miles, but you have tremendous natural barriers, which is good. So we need 1,000 miles, and they're saying you can't do it. Then they come up to me. Now they're saying, I heard Cruz the other day, we must build a wall. I said, where did this come from? Where did this come? Where did it come from? And by the way, he'll never build it. It's just talk. But here's the story. Lying Ted. Nobody lies like Ted. Nobody can lie like Ted. But you know, a good liar doesn't get caught. He gets caught all the time, so he's not really. Maybe we'll have to come up with another name because we dignify him by calling him Lying Ted. But here's the thing. Then I'm on the debate, and the debate goes, and the debate's over. And one of the guys, good guy actually, comes up to me and says, Donald, you're not going to get Mexico to pay for the wall. I said, listen, here's the story. The wall's going to cost, let's say, $10 billion, all right? $10 billion. A lot of money. Going to make it so beautiful. Those things are going to be so high. Anybody gets up there, they're not coming down real fast. They're going to say, wow. We're going to build a real wall, a beautiful wall. What's it going to be called someday? Trump wall. Okay, forget it. I don't want a wall. No, I don't want to. I'd rather have a monument in Washington. That would be much better. Much better. Okay, but look, we're going to build a real wall, a powerful wall, a wall that works, a wall that absolutely stops. And by the way, the Border Patrol, 16,500 Border Patrol folks who are phenomenal. They want to do their job, and they're told to stand back. Let people come in. These are great people. Let me tell you, these are great people. So what happens is they come in. And you know, part of the reason they want to do people, when they ultimately become citizens, there's not one person going to vote Republican, I can tell you. That's one of the things they have in their mind. Not one person will be in 10 years, in 20 years. So you can forget that. somebody was saying, well, that's good. We must go and meet the people and greet them and talk about the Republican values. I said, are you crazy? You don't have a shot. So that's one of the reasons, in my opinion. Okay, what do I know? But here's the thing. The wall is going to get built. The wall is going to be a great wall. And when I go back and tell these companies that you leave the United States, you're going to have major consequences to pay. You're going to be paying tax when you send your product back here. Not one company is going to leave the United States. And I'll go further. If you notice corporate inversions, you see corporate inversions. We have, if you notice, for 5 years, the politicians have been talking about this subject because we're getting drained, folks, all over the country. Forget about Waterbury. Forget about Connecticut. All over the country. We're being drained of our jobs, drained of our factories, millions and millions of jobs. Somebody said as much as 6 million jobs. I mean, think of it. You can't do this. You can't do it. We're not going to have a country left. So they call it corporate inversion. They call it leaving. Call it whatever you want. But you know what? It's going to end. It's going to end so fast. The politicians have been talking about this is a problem for a long time. This problem, I mean, if I look at your numbers, this is a problem that's been going on for 20 years. But this is a problem that's gotten really bad lately. Really bad. It's out of control. Now, they're talking about it for 5 years. I mean, heavy, heavy, heavy talk. They can't come up with a solution. They want to give money to companies. You don't have to give money. They want to give all sorts of benefits to companies. You don't have to give them benefits. All you have to do is say, if they leave, they got to pay a lot of tax. And you know what's going to happen? They're not going to leave. Okay, so that's that. Now listen, here's the story. Here's the story. We're going to take care of our military. We're going to take care of our vets. Our vets are being treated very badly. We're going to repeal and replace Obamacare. It's a disaster. We're going to end Common Core, and we are going to bring education local. We are going to protect our Second Amendment, folks. They want to take away your guns. There's a big, big move. They're chipping away. Now they're looking at bullets. Maybe we can restrict bullets. They're doing everything they can. You know, if in Paris, or if, you know, Paris has the toughest gun laws in the world. If in Paris, the other side had like a couple of these dudes right here in front of me, tough, with a gun strapped to their waist or to their ankle, and if bullets were going in the opposite direction, you wouldn't have had 130 people killed and hundreds of people whose lives are ruined in the hospital right now. And the same holds true for California, where you had the so-called radicalized people. I mean, we have a problem. We have a radical Islamic terror problem. And we have to, you know, you can't solve a problem unless you're willing to talk about it. We have a president that refuses to use the words. He refuses. Even when there's a horrible attack, he uses the words. Why? You'll have to figure it out. Why? You'll have to ask him. But you're not going to solve a problem if you're unwilling to talk about the problem. And it is a problem. It's a serious problem. And we'll solve the problem. But it is a serious, serious problem. So, we're going to protect our Second Amendment. We're going to protect it. We are going to make trade deals that are phenomenal for our country. You know, we have all of these deals, and if you look at China, what China has done to us is and I say it a lot, is the single greatest theft in the history of the world. We have rebuilt China with the money they've taken out. This has been going on for a long time. This is before Obama. This is a long time. I'm going to blame Obama, but this is a long time, okay? No. In all fairness, this has been going on for years. And you know the reason? Because you have companies and China itself, and they all have these powerful lobbyists in Washington, and the senators and the congressmen don't do anything. I'm self-funding my campaign, folks. I'm going to solve the problem so fast, so fast, so fast. So last weekend, you probably saw where the head of finance in China, a very high official, said, we don't like the tone of Donald Trump. We don't like his attitude. And he will destroy free trade. And they called up and they said, would you have a response? I said that China has ripped us off perhaps more than any country ever in the history of the world. And I said it's the single greatest theft in the world. I said it's not going to happen any longer again. But I am so honored when the head people in China are watching what's happening with our movement. I'm so honored by that because you know what? They know that they're ripping us. They are so much smarter than our negotiators. We have political hacks doing the negotiation. They have the smartest people in all of Asia. They have the smartest people in all of China doing their negotiations. And I know China. I've made a lot of money dealing against China. I have buildings in California. I have phenomenal, I sell condos. The biggest bank in the world is a tenant of mine from China. I love China. I think China is great. I'm not angry at China. And I'm not angry at Mexico. And I'm not angry at Japan. I'm angry at our leaders for being so stupid that they would allow this to happen. Thank you. So, here's the story. We're going to start winning again, folks. We're going to win with our military. We're going to knock the hell out of ISIS. Believe me, we're not going to have to use our military other than that. But we're going to knock the hell out of ISIS. We're going to win for our vets. We're going to win with education. We're going to win. We are going to win with education. You know, we're like last. We spend more money per pupil of the 30 nations that they do. We spend more money per pupil than any other nation. Think of this. We spend more money. You have Sweden, Denmark, Norway, China, Japan. There are some others. They're the best. We spend more money by far. It's like second place doesn't even exist. And we're number 30. We're last on the list. So we spend the most money, and we're last on the list. It's sort of like me here. I spent the least money on running, probably because it's my own. I spend the least money on running, and I'm number one by a lot. Don't we want that as our president? You know, that's what we want. So we're going to win with education. We're going to win on our Second Amendment. We're going to win with health care. We're going to win with trade deals. We're going to end up with great trade deals. We're going to save you Social Security because our nation's going to become rich again without the cuts that everybody else has to make, okay? And we're going to save Medicare without the cuts. We're going to look heavy. Fraud, waste, abuse, everybody agrees, okay? But we're going to save you Social Security. We're going to make our country rich again, and we're going to make our country great again, maybe greater than ever before. So get out and vote. Get out and vote. And I want to thank the people of Connecticut. To be out here on a Saturday morning was incredible. I love you folks. Get out and vote. Make America great again. Thank you. I love you all. Thank you. Thank you.